Welcome, one and all, to the actual, correct episode 52. I did the thing again last time, where I can't say numbers right. I was thinking it was episode 52.
If it makes you feel better, neither could the Assassin's Creed franchise, because, you know, how they count is 1, 2, Brotherhood, Revelations, 3, you know. We might as well just start calling it those.
Yep. Episode, I don't know. I can't come up with the words for stuff.
Welcome to ECL Revelations.
Yeah, right. ECL Shadows, all that kind of stuff. That's going to be the really dark episode. Today is February 19th, 2026. And at the time of this recording, I am not technically still working on the episode that's actually episode 51. I'm still listening through the final edit of it to make sure I didn't screw anything up with it. But I promise, if you're listening to this, that means that episode's been out already. We're not going to see, to your point here, we might have subtitle episodes, but they're not going to be released out of numeric order. Today, I am letting my co-host, who hasn't even, I haven't even let you say your name. What am I doing? We're almost 2 minutes in. I'm joined here with my co-host.
You know that they already know who I am if they've been listening long enough. This is Boom.
And you're taking the lead today, I hear.
Yes. So we're going to give kind of a palate cleanser episode. We've been doing a lot of more like in-depth like episodes, I feel like, with certain topics we've been researching for a lot. And I thought today might not be a bad opportunity to just kind of pull it back a little bit. Just kind of go back into a more casual conversation, so to speak, with everything that's been going on. Because recently, in the last couple of weeks even, there's been a lot of news in like video game spaces, and I figured we'd just kind of discuss that and, you know, get what we wanted to say out about a lot of things. There's been a lot of big announcements, especially with like certain crossover collabs. There's a recent casting announcement I forgot to mention before we started recording on Sonic the Hedgehog 4, so that's going to be fun. But we'll get into a bunch of different things today, and it's probably going to be a shorter episode, which, you know, Brandon being the editor is going to be like, thank God. But we figured we'd kind of touch base on a few things that are happening out and about right now. But right now, let's talk about what's going on in our current lives. Brandon, what's going on?
Oh, man, you're putting me on the spot here.
Correct.
Yes. I don't know. I mean, I don't have anything super duper exciting going on at the moment. Yeah, I don't know. No, nothing's coming to mind. Wow. This is a very thrilling way to start this episode, isn't it?
Great start. Love the enthusiasm.
I'm unfortunately a homebody. I wish I got out more, but I don't know how much of that is the like pressures of society making me feel that way, and how much of that is actually me being like, you know, I really should do some more stuff. It'd make me a more interesting person. Because at the same time, if I'm happy the way I am, is there a reason to change that?
I mean, that's fair. I mean, I've been in that kind of vein of trying to, like, get out more, like, just to kind of meet people as of late. Like, more just kind of, like, in an attempt to refine that social butterfly self that I kind of lost, like, maybe, I want to say probably, like, since I left college, if I'm being honest. So it's been, like, 10 years thinking about that. But for me, I actually got to do something I was not anticipating to do yesterday, as of the time of this recording. In where we live, for those who don't know, there is actually a local fighting game, like, bi-weekly event that I have been recently going to a little more frequently. And last night was actually my commentating debut.
Oh, really?
I straight up was asked, hey, do you want to do some commentary for 2XKO? And I said, I guess. So next thing I know, I did like 3 different matches, including the grand finals.
And how many times during that did you plug the show?
Not once. because
Oh,
to be fair, that is not my place, and I have not gotten clearance for that, so I'm not gonna push my luck yet. But I figured I'd at least like talk about that a little bit because it's a small event, and it's they do a lot of like these tournaments where it's like it kind of varies from week to week, but right now they're kind of in a like solid 4 that they started doing, which is I think it's Guilty Gear Strive, Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, and now 2XKO kind of got added into the rotation since it got released like last month. But that was a very fun experience, and it's one of those things where like we've been doing the podcast for like a year, so we have kind of more of a flow with the two of us. Me, I was literally commentating with like a person who I consider a friend who's like in charge of the event, but he was also in the 2XKO event, so I didn't really have a lot of time to, build rapport with him. And I was basically commentating with someone else entirely for 2 of the 3 matches. And I thought it was funny because we're just sitting there like, all right. As of the time of this recording, it is not actually out yet, but there are actually going to be VODs on another channel that when I know when they come out, I will let other people know who want to check out and see how cringe my commentating can be. But I will be honest, there was definitely a nervousness because, one, I am not a fighting game aficionado by any means. I'm not saying like I don't get what's happening. It's more of the I've never commentated before. And that's a weird like line to basically like tread, where it's like you're knowledgeable enough to know what's going on, but you're kind of a little unknowledgeable on what exactly is happening here. But like by the time we got to grand finals, honestly, I was kind of finding a better footing. So hopefully the next time that we hold this event in a couple of weeks, I'll hopefully be able to do more with that too. Because I even told them, like, because we don't have a lot of people right now who play 2XKO, because a lot of the time, a lot of the people are there for more for, like, Strive and Street Fighter. But we still had, like, probably, I want to say, like, 6 people turn out, which isn't too bad for the size of what we have. But no, I'm actually kind of excited to keep doing more of that, because that's a lot of fun for me, because A, I love talking, and B, I love video games. So this just seems very right up our alley. In fact, I was going to message a mutual friend of ours at my old job / your current job about like what happened. 'Cause I'm like, you're not going to believe what I did.
oh boy, yeah. Yeah, that person would probably find that story kind of interesting. So 2 things before we continue on that. Number 1, want to make it clear that was a joke about pushing the show. You're by no means obligated to do that.
No, and I didn't want to. I figured it was a joke. It's more of the like that is not my event by any stretch of the imagination, and like they are absolutely like on board to promote stuff. I think it's more just right now that it's like until I have a better footing with like that scene, I don't want to like just kind of be like elbowing them and being like, hey, nudge nudge, do you think I can promote this? I'm like,
yeah.
I love doing this show, and I would love to have another audience that actually, we can kind of dip into. But right now, I think is more of the I'm still getting my footing in there. Like, I've only been going to the event for maybe, as of now, maybe a couple of months. Because, like, I found these, like, by accident, because a mutual friend of mine who actually hosted them, like, many, many months ago, he was telling me about it, and then it was like, oh, cool, I'll go check it out. And then I met some of the people there. They've been chill. And now even, like, some of us play Magic on a fairly regular basis now, too. So I've gotten to kind of see them, every once, twice a week-ish, something like that. And still just very nice people. Like, that's probably one of the best communities I've been a part of in a while. But, like, they are very, like, pro-creator, too. So it's definitely not one of those things that's, like they're, trying to gatekeep it or anything like that. I think it's more of, from how I feel, it's more of I don't want to, like, push something that, like, feels like it's forced promotion of it. You know what I mean? Like,
well, right.
I'm sure they would absolutely love to see that we're doing this because they have been very eager for a lot of the stuff. I mean, I was telling them at one point I want to, like, eventually, like, when I hopefully get a better rig, start actually making videos again for like Magic content. And they were like, oh yeah, absolutely, when you start doing that, we'll promote it to hell. And I'm like, all right, cool. But no, like I really enjoy commentating for 2XKO, especially since the game is still like fairly young. It's very easy for I feel like people to still kind of get into, even if it was like you were in the closed beta, which I was, versus you're just picking it up for the first time. But at least it's like it's a free game, and like you're able to access all this stuff essentially to like be able to play. The only downside with it is that you have to play it. It's weird. 2XKO has got this weird system of like there's an offline mode and an online mode, and if you want like access to all the characters, you have to play in online or offline mode, excuse me. And if you're online, you actually have to unlock them to play them online, which I think is kind of weird, but I kind of get it to an extent. But the way that the system is set up, like that whole like ecosystem of like the economy is just kind of odd. But the actual gameplay is solid. Like, and I'm excited because they had an announcement recently that they have 2 new characters that they got announced for like later this year to come out, which is going to be Akali, which is like an Ionian ninja character, which a lot of people are like stoked about, and then an unexpected character, which is Senna, who is essentially like the sentinel character who's hunting like these spirits, but she herself is also half spirit. It's a very weird mix, and she has like this big spirit cannon essentially that she uses to fight. But I'm excited for her, especially because I don't know how they're gonna make her fight. But from what my friends have told me, like what they've seen with some of the teaser like videos and stuff, they think that both characters are going to fit right in, no problem, which is great.
Well, and I think another thing with the commentary in particular on this, with it being a new game, it's not like you're inherently at the point where it's like, oh, you have to analyze the top tier choices and why they pick this character and their moves and the frame data and all that stuff. Like your role is perfect in that I think you'd make a great color commentator. You're more the person to be there to know entertaining things and crack jokes about it, whereas like the other person gets to be more that straight edge person who has to know that information. And I just get the feeling that would be entertaining. I haven't seen it, so it's like I guess I can't say for sure, but I mean I have no reason to assume it would not be entertaining.
Oh yeah, kind of like what you brought in, or brought up, I should say. Like I didn't do too much talking because the other guy who was commentating, he's one of the guys who's in charge of the event, but he's very knowledgeable on like a bunch of different games. Like I'm pretty sure he's able to commentate on just about every single one that they host. And even for 2XKO, he was just going, and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, you know what, this is your show, you do right whatever you want to do. And then when we switched over to me and it's a woman who goes by the username of Big Mama Cass. She and I think, have a good rapport in terms of commentating. But kind of what you brought up is like, I think the problem with it a little bit was more, we both are color commentators, I feel like, and not so much a play-by-play. Like, we definitely were able to kind of like talk about what was going on, especially in the grand finals a lot, kind of, seeing what they're doing, what they can do to try to be better about it. But it's like actual play-by-play, there's not as much in it, I think. But honestly, like, I think that's just a thing that also just takes time to, get better at. Like, I'm sure I can be better at play-by-play over time and just be able to kind of, like, once I have a better understanding of, like, more fighting game terminology and just the game mechanics as a whole, I think it'll be a lot easier to just kind of, like, pick it up, put it down, and not really think too hard on it, I think.
Well, and in that same kind of way, you probably think about like the first few televised basketball games. Granted, I'm sure it was a different time then, for example, but like that's one of the newer sports. So when you don't know like the terminology, because it hasn't even necessarily been invented yet, and the rules are changing, and how different strategies the teams will employ, I'm sure it's a lot harder to even have a proper play-by-play until it's like, okay, we've seen this. And, like, you have someone who's actually an expert on that. Because otherwise, all you're going to have for announcers is that kind of color commentary, just people talking about it, because that's all they know. And that's exactly the stage that this game is in right now. Mm-hmm. When you get, a few more months in and you have people really pick apart how the game works, which characters are best, I don't know if there's anything special with any of the stages or if they're just like flat lines with each other, but you just figure out where those, like, what advantages there are, disadvantages there are, how they can, like, how people can play off each other. That's when you can get more of that straight play by play, and then that's when the color commentary becomes even better, because you can use that to interject some of those like jokes and wisecracks into whatever's happening on screen. But for now, I mean, it's just fine that it's sort of just that entertaining part of it, because there's not much depth you can get out of it yet. It needs to mature before you can really get there. And then, yeah, to your point, not all fighting games are the same, but they are similar enough to where you should hopefully be able to share some of that knowledge across different games, right?
Yeah, because there's definitely like, I was talking to one of my friends who competed in it last night, and we were kind of discussing like, the commentating side of things, because like he doesn't do a whole lot of it, but he was kind of telling me like, yeah, you can absolutely like carry over a lot of the same terms that are like in other ones. Like a fireball is essentially a projectile, no matter what game it is, as long as you're talking specifically about projectiles. Footsies, which is kind of like, if you've ever played like a fighting game, if you ever like crouch down and just keep doing like spamming like low hits, kind of like in Street Fighter where they have like that quick little kick, that's a footsie essentially. A lot of games do have those essentially. It's just a matter of like, I would say severity, if that's the best word I can think of, where it's like kind of depends on how frequently you can actively keep doing that. Not every fighting game obviously is the same though. But like, what I think that's cool about the game personally is there's a whole system that they have where it's essentially set up as a 2-on-2 fighter, right? But what they tell you about is like, okay, you can have two people, but what's cool is, and I got to see this last night, our grand finals was between one person controlling two characters and then two people controlling on a team together. So one person was one character and one was another, and they were in very good sync, I might add. And I've never seen like a lot of fighting games. I think it's been done in the past before with stuff like that, but like it's a very unique take on like the 2v2 fighter, where it's like you're not just fighting a team now of two people. Now you have to think of two different mindsets who are playing the game, their way, that they have been able to kind of like work together to really get that flow of theirs, versus you only know one person or the other. So now you got to kind of like fly by the seat of your pants to figure out this other person you don't probably play a lot of.
Well, and that's got to be some elite play if you're talking about, because I'm envisioning like when I think of a 2v2 or a 3v3 fighter, I start thinking of Marvel versus Capcom. Like I would argue that's probably the big team fighter when people think of those, right?
It's definitely.
And usually with that, I would think of it's one person and they pick their team, but I guess I never really thought, because I would think that they would like sort of segregate. They would have like a individual bracket and like a team bracket, but I guess when there's not necessarily a reason it has to be that way, but certainly if you're somebody who can just play as an individual and still take on a team like that and be successful, that I would think is some really, truly elite play.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, they are very in sync with each other. Like, it's impressive because it's like the team that they were going with from about half of it, and then the other half was Jinx Braum, and the one player is more of a zoner player, so she's playing Jinx, and then the other player is more of like a big rushdown type of beat the crap out of you type of character, and he's playing Braum, and the thing that made it more interesting when I was watching was like they have this really good ability that wasn't talked enough about when I was commentating, but they're able to like tag each other in to keep their combos going. Like, it's one thing if you can do it on like your own team, because it's like you have to basically be in control of two characters and know what both of them are doing. It's another thing when you have a team of two and one person has set up the combo for you to tag in, and then you as the second player are able to keep going with said combo. And I'm like, that was so cool. Like, I could not honestly fathom that, because I'm like, I don't know how to play with like a team in a fighting game per se. I've only ever played by myself. But I got a couple of friends that I'm kind of like sitting there in the back of my mind. I'm like, I kind of want to just see if like him and I can even like begin to do stuff like that. But like, I think the problem is we have to have two very like in rhythm characters that like fit as like a cohesive unit. Cause like, that's the thing with like any of these tag fighter games is like there's certain players that it's like you could take essentially like the say top two characters, quote unquote, that are just really good. But if they don't synergize or like you as players don't synergize, it's not going to work as well as if you take, you know, maybe two lesser characters, but their synergy is so good that their combos just become very fluid. So I don't know necessarily if like in the future I'll be continually to compete, but I'm definitely hoping to commentate more. Like even one of the guys that like I talked to and I play Magic with, we were both like kind of joking in the Discord that we're part of for that event. We're just like, when are we going to be doing the commentary? It's just like, I don't know. I'm up for it if you are though. So
yeah.
But kind of staying on the topic of 2XKO, one of the big things that got announced semi-recently was Riot Games' decision to reduce their team by 80 people, I believe is the exact number. And I feel a little bit like that's the worst time you could be reducing the like team to make this game flourish. And I'm getting like, I don't know how to better explain it to this, but for those of you who may even remember that this existed at one point, it's giving me very big parallels to what happened to Legends of Runeterra, Riot's like digital card game that they did. And I'm just kind of like, oh no, we're going to do this again, aren't we?
Well, if this game just came out, like what are you defining as it just came out here?
So like it officially released like out of betas in January. So it's only been about a month for it like to be officially released. There was like a closed beta and a bunch of other things prior to that that people could kind of sign up, get part of. And I was lucky enough to be part of the closed beta. And when I was playing it here and there, like it was fun time. It's just, it's a lot of things that you got to definitely be aware of with that game. But it very much hurts, I feel like, to see something released this soon and less than like even 3 months into it, they're talking about like they reduced their team. Like, hang on, I'm gonna pull up a article because I know that they were talking about it.
Well, and when you say they reduced their team, I assume that means that's like layoffs. They just don't have jobs anymore. It's not like they're like, okay, so now we're out of like the main development of this game. We don't need as many people working on this. We're gonna move you guys over to this other game. I'm like, from the little bit I'm seeing, this is like they're straight up out of a job and they're, you know, back to looking to do something else in the industry now. Like, I think, I mean, of course, it's just like, it's sad to see people lose their jobs. You know, no one ever wants to go through that. But also, that also likely doesn't portend good things for the future of this game, right? If you're reducing the team by even a little bit, it's like, okay, does that mean Riot is really committed to this game? Or did they just finally finish it and they're like, okay, we're done with this, we're moving on, you guys need to do something else? And certainly it's not like they can just do free updates in perpetuity. Eventually they got to make money, but also...
Right. And like, I think the thing that I'm kind of concerned about with how it is that I think they're trying really hard to give all of their games a League of Legends sort of like way to make money, if that makes sense. Like, League for years was able to just be really, really profitable primarily because they just pump out all these skins for the game. It, you know, when you have tens of thousands of players that are buying like not even all the skins, but even just the ones they like, you know, some of these can be anywhere between like $5 to like $20 a pop. And if you're buying those over and over and over and over again, like for all these different characters, you start to really like start to rake in some serious cash. And like League is by no means like, you know, in a position where they can't make money right now. They still got a huge player base, even going almost, well, they're pushing like what, 13 years since? Like, it's insane the level that like League has kind of hit. But I think because of how successful League is, all of their other projects that they've been trying to do, you know, making more games so that they can actually call themselves Riot Games, plural. And I think part of that problem
Riot
is like,
game.
Yeah, I mean, for the longest time, it was basically just League and that was it. But I think what I worry about is it's like they're trying so hard to make all this money from these different games. And I think the biggest one that I kind of like started to see it with was Legends of Runeterra. Now, I was a very big proponent for Runeterra when it came out, and I loved it ever since they released it. But I will be completely frank, is I've stopped playing it ever since they made a massive change to where it was basically focusing from a PvP style of card game to they wanted to make it more of a PvE style, where like people are only really playing the PvE mode, so they're figuring, okay, well, we'll just, you know, cater to that fan base instead of focusing on the PvP element. And I'm like, that sucks. Why would I want to just do PvE only? Like, it's a nice addition, do not get me wrong, but like when that is your focal point, it feels very half-hearted. And I think that's something that, like, I hated seeing Runeterra kind of, like, quote-unquote die. And now, kind of pushing forward, it's like, I've seen that, like, Riot has had some success with trying to make their, you know, funding through their certain ecosystems of games, with, like, League and TFT being the two big ones, I would argue. Valorant is okay to an extent, but like I would definitely argue that a lot of their gun skins are severely overpriced in that. But if people are going to keep paying for them for that price, even if it's like a skin bundle, which is like $100, I think, in real world money, last I saw, for like maybe 5 skins, that's $20 a skin for a gun. Like,
that's bonkers.
Yeah. And I don't
like I've felt dumb paying 75 cents for all like the little me costumes in Smash Brothers. And like I'm sure when you add that up, that comes up to some ridiculous amount, but comparing that to $20 for one skin for a gun,
like it's
that's
insane.
Like night and day.
Yeah. Because, like, and the thing is, like, Valorant's been around for a while now. Like, there's been multiple seasons. There usually is about, like, I think 3 quote-unquote seasons a year. And every season has, like, a battle pass that is, like, there's free tiers and then there's the pay tier. So, like, you're still going to spend, like, $20 for, like, the pass, but at least you're going to get a bunch of stuff in them as long as you're playing the game consistently. Like, it's, you pay $20 to earn all these rewards, basically. And the flip side of it is like when they're actually in store, now they have all these like skin lines that they're like, you know, selling for $100 a pop if you want all of them at once, and maybe like a couple of extra things here and there. The one thing I'll give Valorant though is they at least made the understandable choice, because like a lot of people were upset with like Riot after they realized, hey, we want to get these old battle pass things that you had, but we can't because we didn't even play the game back then. So now we don't get access to that. The way they kind of remedied that was in the store, there is a separate thing that they have now where you're able to like get a randomized 4 items from passes that or battle pass stuff that you couldn't get initially or you didn't get when you played for whatever reason. And you're able to buy those with like an in-game currency that you can actually earn, like not like real world money unless you desperately want to get that right now. Like they give you the option, but you can play and earn stuff. What's interesting is that they cap that at a specific amount. So it's kind of like Helldivers 2 in a way, where they'll give you these resources, but they cap you, encouraging you to spend what you saved instead of just hoarding it and waiting for the next thing to basically play it out. So I kind of like that methodology because it's like it's encouraging spending versus like, oh, I don't have anything that I want to buy, I guess I'll save it. It's like, okay, but if you're not actually buying the stuff at all, like you're not really getting everything to like have it per se. Like Helldivers does it really well because they have all these war bonds they keep releasing with stuff over and over again. And even if you stop playing for a while, like I only just recently started getting back into it, I can actually go back to all these war bonds. I can unlock it with the in-game currency if I can find like the super credits and certain missions and whatnot, which is great. It does take a little bit, do not get me wrong. And like when you're only finding like 10, 20 a mission, it's going to be a while before you can do it. But at the same time, I'm not going to be really unlocking every single war bond right away. So it makes sense for me to just be able to kind of focus on the war bond I'm currently, or one of the war bonds I might have open, and just finish those, and then start worrying about, hey, I want to unlock the next one when I get close to, finishing it all. So I kind of like that with Valorant system, and I think going back to the 2xKO situation, they are kind of in that Valorant bubble right now where like their battle pass is like so much, and it's like it's great that you can have it, yes, but I think the other problem comes down to they also are having these problems of like very obscurely priced skin lines because they're trying to make money. Like going to the statement that Tom Cannon from Riot Games put out there, they were talking about they say, I want you to know that we didn't make this decision lightly. As we expanded from PC to console, we saw consistent trends in how players are engaging with the game. The game has resonated with the passionate core audience, but overall momentum hasn't reached the level needed to support a team of this size long term. And then they go on to say, with a smaller focused team, we're going to dig in and make key improvements to the game, including some of the things we've already heard you asking for. We'll share some of our plans soon. So kind of going into that, it feels like it's two different things that we talked about that kind of end up holding hands here. Whereas we're not making enough money to support that big of a team to give you a very, very big experience when we were, building the game and everything. And going to a smaller core team at least will let us kind of hyper-focus into very specific things that people are asking for and making improvements to the core game before we start to expand it, to a much bigger scale. But now it's also like, basically, I'm hearing it as we aren't making enough money on 2xKO to keep enough people on the team to stay at that level. And that sucks. Because, like, that makes me wonder, like, how long is it going to be then if we're going to wait for new characters to be put in or, all these, like, skin lines and stuff like that and God knows what else with it. So I just kind of hope that, like, I don't see this as a Runeterra situation where, like, Runeterra got to a point where it just died out. And I shouldn't say died out, but, like, it's not what it used to be. Like, it's not the same game that I played when I was first getting into it. And I would, like, actively try to collect every single card from that set that was coming out. But now it's, like, it's kind of a ghost town unless you're playing PvE stuff. Like, no one's really playing against each other. They don't do like professional tournaments anymore for them, which sucks because I actually did enjoy watching Runeterra stuff for the longest time when they were people playing it. And now I'm just hoping that 2xKO kind of doesn't repeat the same mistakes that Runeterra did.
Well, and I think there's certainly something to wonder about here in terms of, the management of the studio at large, right? Because under what circumstance, when League of Legends is, one of the most successful video games of all time, can a fighting game spin-off of that not achieve enough success to support the smaller team behind it? Like, I acknowledge if you're into League, you might not necessarily be into fighting games, but that's also why this is a smaller team working on this, and you adjust your expectations knowing that it's a spin-off. Like, it could have been the next gigantic thing for Riot. That was certainly not impossible, but if they're not putting in the right expectations for that game, if they're way overspending on what needs to be done with that, which is a huge recurring problem for all kinds of studios today, was this really set up well enough such that it could succeed, or was this like kind of doomed from the start because you're thinking, okay, well, we got to make this much money on it, and it's like, well, that's doable for the main game, but we need to assume that we're maybe going to get half the player base of the main game if we want. Not everybody who's into I can't like stress this enough. Not everybody who's into the main gameplay of League is going to suddenly love fighting games. They're two totally different types of games. Or even like with Runeterra being a card game, just because you like one type of game doesn't mean you're going to like the other. So, you can assume there may be some crossover if you're smart with it, but you can't just set these pie in the sky expectations for something that isn't the main product your audience has come looking for. You need to adjust that and plan your game around the fact that that's what you're probably going to get. So, and I'm not saying that Riot necessarily did this poorly. Maybe it is legitimately that they just didn't get the audience that they were looking for and that this was going to happen. But, the fact that we see this across so many different studios over and over definitely gives me pause to think that maybe they didn't really think this through fully when the project started in the first place. And I don't know the full history of this, so I don't know if like they bought up the studio that did this, or
this was all in house.
An internal team.
Everything.
This was all in house. Okay, well then, yeah. Like where was the thought process here to say, okay, main league does this. How much of that pie are we gonna get, and how do we plan this such that this is sustainable on its own, and then we still have the audience over here? Not that you're like, I don't know. It's just interesting, but also like frustrating.
Yeah, and I think also, and this is just my take on this, I think part of their issue, and I say this with love as someone who loves a lot of the Riot stuff that's come out, especially over the recent years, is that they're trying to basically like expand all of this stuff into League lore by giving you all these other games and stuff like that, and being able to kind of address like things that League didn't answer because it's not the type of game to really focus specifically on lore. But they were using these as like an example. Like Runeterra has a lot of background lore for a lot of the League characters if you go search for it, which is great. I loved that about League specifically, and I loved it even more with Runeterra, where they were like even showcasing like certain characters in multiple cards. Like here's their kind of like, thing that they're kind of describing about this character's like situation of what's going on in the League lore, basically. I think part of the problem is that they spread it out so much that they were kind of in this position of, we want this to be as big as League. Even if they didn't have the numbers to necessarily match that, like on paper, I think in their heads they want these games because, it's going to be as big as League because this is a League property. And this is something I saw a lot of with like the Riot Forge situation. Riot Forge was a thing that like they would be able to have people make games by using the League of Legends properties and characters and all that stuff. And we got some really good Riot Forge games out of it. We had, what was it? There was like the Ruin King, which was like an RPG that was insanely fun to play. I would still highly recommend it to everybody to play it at least once. And it went in this whole story behind like the Ruin King, Viego, and them basically going to swallow up the entirety of Bilgewater because they're causing what's an event called the Ruination, which is effectively just essentially a giant soul apocalypse that covers multiple like regions in the area. And you have a team of like 6 of the champions from League that you have to build, and you can customize how they play to suit kind of like what your perfect style is for you as you're trying to take down Viego. It was a really fun game. Still highly recommend. Like easy 9 out of 10 when I played it. And then they had other games, like they had the Mage Seeker, which was like following Silas' story where he was escaping Demacia, and it's this story of, you know, breaking the chains of like conformity, because in game lore, Demacia is anti-mage. Like if you have magical powers, you are a threat, and they will lock you up with this like special like stone that they've crafted where it's supposed to absorb magic and you cannot use it. Silas's whole thing was that he wants to break people out of there and basically call out Demacia royalty and, you know, higher ups, basically telling them, we will not, you know, stop being who we are as mages, and you don't get to dictate that we are the enemy when we're trying not to be. But the way that he does it is actually kind of like he's trying to create a revolution, but he actually causes problems in the process as it goes on too. So he becomes more of an anti-hero, where it's like the message he's serving is good, but his tactics are not necessarily great. So stuff like that. It's like, and then we got other games like Convergence. We got this like Hextech Mayhem, which was like a rhythm game that was surprisingly fun. There's like 2 other ones that I haven't had a chance to play yet, but there are a lot of these games that like expand on the lore of stuff. But it goes back to the same problem of like, we are not making enough money with these. We're making these really well-crafted, with love projects that are expanding our universe's lore to unfathomable levels that they probably would never have thought of 10 years ago. And now they're shutting down these studios because Riot Forge is no longer in existence anymore. Because I think after their last game, which was like a Bandle City like farming sim thing with like these Yordle creatures that's part of the lore, that was the last one, and they like Riot Forge is basically shut down. So I worry that like they have these like grandiose ideas. They want to have them be as big as League, even though realistically nothing will ever be as big as League was. Like League at one point sold out the Staples Center for their grand finals for the North American like championship. That is not an easy task for anybody, let alone a video game tournament. Like, there was not an empty seat in that building. Because I watched it live when I was in college, and it was insane to see. And I couldn't even fathom it when I was watching it the first time. But, like, it's one of these things where, like, you have to realize that you're not going to hit the same highs all the time. And that's with any business. Like, you may have, like, a record year, but if record year becomes you need to be hitting past that every single year, one of 2 things I feel like has to happen. Either A, you have to make products that are worth absolutely like giving you that cash, or you've got to make cuts somewhere else so that your profits look bigger than they actually are. Case in point, when, you know, companies downsize and all this stuff, or they maybe like do whatever they have to do to cut corners on their products or their, you know, their services or whatever it might be. And a lot of the times it's the latter. I'm not saying Riot is actively trying to be the latter. I am saying, though, that, like, it's really hard to not think that, though. And it sucks. As someone who, like, genuinely likes a lot of the stuff that Riot Games has put out, especially over the recent years, between the Riot Forge stuff, I love what's going on with 2XKO. I loved Runeterra for years, and now I'm still just watching these all kind of be thrown to the wayside because, you know, it kind of reminds me of like that one political cartoon of like that pipe, and there's the big fat dude at the end who's like taking all of the water, and there's like these 3 scrawny people who have like the drips that are just coming off of the pipe like from leaks. It's kind of like that, where all of this money is going into League for Riot, and then these other projects that they have are barely getting anything by comparison. And it sucks.
The thing that this situation reminds me a lot of, like I was listening to you describe, you know, those games, those Riot forged games. And as if my perhaps lackluster commentary on this in some ways is proven, I don't really know anything about League of Legends at all. But regardless, like hearing you talk about it, this whole thing reminds me a lot of Disney, specifically with Marvel and with Star Wars, two more properties that I know very little about. But regardless, like I see, kind of what they're making, and like, it's kind of like it reminds me of the problem the MCU has faced in the last handful of years, where it's like, in the first couple of phases of it, they've covered pretty much most of the major characters people care about. There's still, like, the big one that I would say that's still out there for Disney to properly do something with is the X-Men. But, they've already got Iron Man's done, Hulk is done, Thor is done. And I mean, obviously they can come up with more stories. That's kind of the nature of how, like, comic books and characters like this are. But, I think when you've got like 3 or 4 movies about one character and then they're in team ups, like, most audiences are probably satisfied by that. But, they're not necessarily going to be familiar with, if you have to start getting into the C-listers and the D-listers type characters, and that's not to say they're bad characters, it's just that they're not popular, they're not known. You're not necessarily going to get the same success. So in that same kind of way with those games, it's like, they're doing these spin-offs, and they could very well be great games. They could very well have interesting ideas going on and things that they want to do with it. But if the audience isn't there for that, if all the audience wants is the main game, it's going to struggle. And I think that's what you're seeing with this, is they're trying to branch out. And, if they want to branch out, maybe instead of trying to, like, really deepen and go super hyper on the lore for this thing that they already know is successful, like, they should just keep growing and nurturing the big thing that's successful. And to the extent they have other teams doing things, they should do, I don't know, new stuff. You can get something that's just as successful as League if you have a team try something new and it ends up being super popular. Or you can have that team try something new, and maybe it doesn't end up that popular, but it ends up getting its own level of success, and now you've built something else that people are going to want to flock to. Whereas you're already limiting yourself if you're trying to build on the base that is League of Legends without acknowledging that you're limiting yourself in that way, right? I'm sure, like, I've seen reports where Sega's like, the Sonic racing game hasn't done as well as we hoped it would. But at the same time, it's also not like, I'm sure Sega didn't go into it envisioning that game would do as well as a mainline Sonic game. Or, like, for Atlas with any of their, like, Persona spin-offs. I guarantee Atlas, when they were developing, like, the Persona 4 dancing game, they didn't envision it having the same level of success as the actual Persona 4. So, but those games are still good. They're still beloved. They still had, like, the right amount of success for them. And yeah, they might have underperformed, but they still were put out there. And it's not like anybody, at least to my knowledge, I'd have to probably dig through archives of articles and things to find how well some of these things did. But to my knowledge, there was no, like, big, okay, now we gotta lose all these people and now we gotta make all these changes because this game did a little bit less bad or did a little bit worse than we thought it would. And whereas Riot, it seems like they're really putting these eggs in this basket and everything needs to be a huge success, which simply isn't realistic.
Yeah, I think, to kind of put a bow on this part of the topics, I think Riot just needs to avoid being like a snake eating its own tail situation, where it's like you've become so successful that you kind of are going after, like, this success that it actually dwindles your success in a way that's going to actually impact the main reason you got big in the first place. And I hate seeing like all this money going into these smaller projects that they're trying to diversify into, only for it to kind of funnel back into itself. You know what I mean?
Right. It's not it that's kind of what I'm saying here is it's like they're not planning this with the intent that this is going to be its own thing and it's going to have its own level of success. We're trying to siphon off success from this other thing, which, I mean, that is kind of the idea of a spin-off, right? You want to use the fact that you've got this property as a way to catapult it into more success, but that doesn't work for everything. Maybe a spin-off doesn't necessarily work for League of Legends in the way that it works for a Mario, because like that's a series that's very like you can ask anybody off the street and they may well know it. You could ask that same person on the street if they've heard of League, and they may have heard of it. Do they know it and have the same level of excitement for it? You can probably find people who do. I guarantee there's plenty of them out there, and it's not like they're not an insignificant number of people, but the pie there is still a smaller pie compared to something that's like a cultural icon like that. And so that's why I'm really like saying here, I think what they probably should be doing is finding, like, come up with new ideas. You know, there's plenty of people looking for new things to play. You don't have to pull from this well just because it is super successful, because, you know, then you need to first keep growing that main game in perpetuity if you even want to have a chance at decent success with the spinoff.
Yeah, I hope for the best for the future of the game, though. And with Riot as a whole, I hope that they do kind of find like that perfect balance to be able to keep these other games, and like they may not be as like big overall as League, but I do hope that they have a longer shelf life than some of them. But that's where I'll end that portion. But speaking of cultural icons, Sonic the Hedgehog.
I brought him up.
There has been a new casting announcement with Sonic the Hedgehog 4 for Amy Rose, and it is a very big Disney alum and resident of The Good Place, Kristen Bell, will be playing Amy Rose. What are our thoughts on that?
You know, I was trying to remember because I'm like, I've seen this name. What do I know her from?
Her big one is probably Frozen, because she was Anna in Frozen. But she was also, her big break, I think, was Veronica Mars, if I remember right. But she's been in like a lot of things. Like, she's just had such a very storied like career since her big break, and like she does have a background in a lot of voice acting. Even she's actually Lucy in the early Assassin's Creed games.
I was just looking at some of her filmography and I saw that was the big like game for her.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, she's got a lot of movies, and yeah, to your point, a lot of voice roles in addition to live roles.
She's a very jack of all trades, like, to say the least. Like, she's very good at a lot of different things. Like, she's good at voice acting, she's good at her actual acting. But I definitely don't hate this as a Amy Rose pick, though, because I think the big thing for me is it's like there's such a very good cast with Sonic movies right now that for 4, I was very curious who they were going to end up picking for that. And I was kind of more worried it was going to be someone who's like, oh, who's relevantly popular kind of thing. And I'm glad that they picked Belle, mostly due to, I think that she can just fit that role really well. But no, I definitely don't think it's a bad pick by any stretch.
Yeah, I in general prefer, you know, the people who primarily play the characters be the ones playing the characters. But I think for the castings that they've had, because Colleen O'Shaughnessy is the only one who like is in the games that's also in the movies, I think the other castings have been pretty smart. You know, Ben Schwartz is Sonic. Like that's perfect. He's definitely has the personality to play a character like Sonic the Hedgehog. Idris Elba as Knuckles is interesting to me. I think, like, so full disclosure, I have only seen the first movie, and I've only seen it once. It's actually something I've been thinking about, is I really should
You should
go ahead and watch the movies. Well, I don't watch a lot of movies, and it's a shock and surprise. I do not subscribe to any streaming services because, God, that'd be a waste of my money for how little I watch TV and movies. But I've been thinking about, like, I should really go back and watch these because I know they're considered pretty good and they're considered to be like keep on getting better and better. But kind of like with the last two, it's like Idris Elba is Knuckles. I feel like that might, like, because Knuckles really goes back and forth between being a very serious character and being a very funny character, and I guess I just feel like that casting works better for more of a serious Knuckles, but I just haven't seen enough of it to be like, okay, well, when he's being like goofy Knuckles, how does it work? And it probably is pretty funny having a person with a voice that otherwise comes off as so serious in these goofy moments. So for all I know, it well works. And kind of similarly with Keanu Reeves as Shadow, there is definitely an aspect to that where I go, okay, are we picking this person because, like, Keanu Reeves is a big deal, Idris Elba is a big deal, and I mean Kristen Bell and Ben Schwartz, though, I mean, it's not that they're certainly not C-list actors, but they're not like super ultra stars in the grand scheme of Hollywood. So I'm just hoping that they're like pretty smart choices for those characters. Like I'm interested to see where this goes. But yeah, primarily for me, this is a situation of I really need to watch the movies because I'm behind.
I will say this, as someone who's only seen through... I haven't seen Keanu's Shadow yet, but I do hope that it is as good as I have heard it to be. But Idris Elba, I think, does not get enough credit for being Knuckles, because, like, kind of what you were talking about is that he kind of toes this line character-wise as a very serious but also funny character. And I think Idris, weirdly enough, is, like, a perfect casting choice for that type of character, because of two reasons. One, he has a comedic background somewhere in there, but he also is a very good dramatic actor. So he's able to really toe this line because he's played both sides of the coin here. And, like, people kind of forget some of his other roles that he's been funny in. Like, he's the water buffalo chief in Zootopia. He is got at least a couple of episodes I remember from The Office where he plays, like, this, like, some district regional manager or something like that. And, like, he is a very fan favorite character, and, like, he's weirdly funny too. Like, just in general, he is a funny dude. Like, I was kind of half expecting it to be more of like an Andre Braugher situation from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, where he's like this very serious guy, but because he's serious in a comedic standpoint, that's what makes it funny. Versus, like, no, Idris is just funny. Like, it's so amazing to see someone who can be able to, like, flip that switch between dramatic and comedic so well. Because, like, even, like, when Idris was playing Bloodsport in The Suicide Squad, he also was very funny in there. He's, like, ribbing the entire time with John Cena's Peacemaker, like, with Harley. Like, it's just amazing, like, how he is able to kind of, like, be both this serious a-hole-ish character and still be able to get a punchline in, no issues whatsoever. Like, I think he just justifiably was, like, a great pick regardless of what anyone would have said. And, like, I think that's what not enough people will talk about with, like, even Keanu, is, like, people kind of forget Keanu, like, is more of a serious actor with, like, the John Wick movies and whatnot as of recent. But this is the same guy who was in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Mm-hmm.
So he is a comedic actor as well as he is a serious actor, even as, like, an action star, which, you know, action star and serious actor may not always fall kind of in the same boat sometimes. But in Keanu's case, it kind of does, because it's, like, it's a lot of action, per se, between, like, his time between, like, The Matrix and John Wick, but he's more dramatic in John Wick, too, I feel like, where it's very, like, there is, like, this whole background story to his character. Like, the violence is just an addition to what makes his character his character. So like I think that he's able to really like, it's almost like he's taking like that aggression of the John Wick character, putting it into the Shadow, but then he's still got the comedic timing from like Bill and Ted that he's really like managing to mix from what it sounds like a very good mix, no less. So I am hopeful for Sonic 4, and honestly, like, this might be like the first movie franchise in a really, really long time where I just kind of sit there and I'm like, I can't really be upset that another movie is coming out if they keep coming out like quality movies.
And to think it all started with
the human teeth Sonic, yeah.
with the human teeth. One of the only times where the internet's bullying actually worked out for something for the better.
Oh, absolutely. But the thing was, is like, I think that was a very, very good move for the internet to just be that kind of harsh on it. Because it's like, that looked horrendous. Like, it's an insanely terrifying image that is still, like, burned into my brain how many years later. And, like, it's even gotten to the point where they made a joke about it in, what was it? The Chip and Dale, like, movie.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
Like, Ugly Sonic is its own character in a Disney universe now, which is even stupider, but, like, it's so much funnier for some reason. And I think, I could be wrong, but I think Ben Schwartz also voices that Sonic too.
I don't think so, but
I'll have to look.
Verify.
I haven't gotten a chance to look because, like, I know Ben doesn't play Chip or Dale because I think that's John Mulaney and Andy Samberg. I think are Chip and Dale in that movie.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, that part I remember. I couldn't remember who plays Ugly Sonic though.
It is Tim Robinson.
That's even funnier. Tim Robinson is it's so much funnier pick for that. I don't know if you know. Do you know who Tim Robinson is, like, offhand?
Not off the top of my head, but it looks like he's had a ton of comedy work, so that's a pretty good casting in my mind.
He is a very, like, interesting comedic talent. If you've ever seen the show I Think You Should Leave, that's him. That's basically his baby. But you've probably seen, like, memes of his stuff from that show, though, where it's like, he's the guy who's like, did you ever see there's like a sketch where it's this dude in a hot dog costume basically like, yeah, we gotta see who does this, and it's like, it's clearly him, but like he's like gaslighting the entire store that he didn't just drive a car through a men's warehouse essentially, and he's like trying to gaslight everyone into it. He's also the same guy who, like, when he's going through the drive-thru and he's just like, stop, I'm trying something, please, 55 burgers, 55 fries, and I'm just like, oh my god.
Very, very fast-paced out there comedy, it sounds like.
It's more, I feel like, shock humor in a way. It reminds me almost of The Whitest Kids You Know, like, from back in the day. Like, that stuff is what I remember being very, like, I don't want to say edgy. It kind of is, but it kind of isn't. But it's that kind of style of humor where it's like the punchline isn't so much like what's being said, it's the sudden, like, jarring left turn to get there. That's what a lot of, like,
it's the whiplash.
Yeah, that's what a lot of I Think You Should Leave is, where it's a lot of these, like, sketches where it's like you don't know, like, why this is happening in any capacity. Like, one of my favorite ones is, like, there was, like, a fake sketch where it was, like, a dating show and Tim Robinson's character in it is just, like, there for the zip line. And, like, one of the contestants, like, I think you're just here for the zip line. What? And all they do is keep showing his character on the zip line, kind of proving the point.
I'm not just here for the zip line.
No.
He said while ziplining.
Yeah, but no, like, Tim Robinson is funny. I think you'd probably get a kick out of some of his stuff. I'll send you some of that later. But no, like, it's so funny that that was their choice for Ugly Sonic. I kind of want to see, like, an interaction between Ben Schwartz and Tim Robinson as the two Sonics now.
Oh, God. That's got to be something.
Oh, man. Okay, so speaking of movies, since we're, you know, getting into... I'm transitioning phenomenally, by the way.
You are really just full-on segueing this show here.
Yeah, this is all off the cuff. But another thing that came up recently that I saw as of this morning, IGN actually made a video talking about how there's a possible Star Fox link to the new Super Mario Brothers Galaxy movie. I don't know if I necessarily believe that, but there's like they kind of point out that there's a point in this, like, not quite a wide shot, but there's like a bunch of people that are kind of standing facing the sky, and one of the people on the far left looks very similar to a Star Fox like stylus suit, like Star Fox or Slippy Toad, something in that caliber. And they're kind of taking it and running with it, and I only wanted to talk about it briefly, but I don't think that's going to be what they do, because I feel like that's such a hard pivot to be like, oh yeah, we're doing the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Oh, by the way, Star Fox is also in this universe. And I'm like, okay, we may be pushing things a little bit here. Like, it's not like we're getting a Smash Brothers style movie anytime soon kind of thing. But
yeah, so it's based on this kind of group wide shot where there's like this mysterious character on the left, and I mean,
I think it might just be Luigi in a spacesuit, honestly.
No, it can't, because Luigi's on the far right side of the frame.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's probably some character they haven't like revealed yet.
Well, I see the logic in it though, because like I see how the outfit kind of looks, could remind someone of Fox, and I mean, there's straight up a shape on here that looks like a blaster, like at least based on what I'm looking at. And that's been kind of a thing in the last, ever since that trailer's come out, whether it's the last few days or few weeks or whatever. I haven't been paying attention as much to the marketing because I was more worried with the first movie about like, hey, I really hope they don't screw this up, but they didn't screw it up, as I talked about in the review of that movie. I had some problems with it. But I didn't think it was totally a mess, of course. So it's like I could see if the thought was to, for whatever reason, start bringing in other series for some reason, which I think this would be way too early to do something like that.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
But if they were going to do that, Star Fox makes sense on the basis of A, this is obviously going to have some presence in space, being that it is, the Super Mario Galaxy movie. And B, if you're going to pick a series that has some presence in space, and it's got to be a Nintendo series, well, what are you limiting yourself to? Metroid?
Metroid, Star Fox, and probably F-Zero. But
I was going to say Pikmin. But you're right.
Too, yeah.
F-Zero would work too. But the problem, Metroid, way too serious.
Yep.
F-Zero, to your point, is it well known enough? And I think there are questions about can it I don't know. F-Zero is just a weird series in terms of it being serious and not serious enough. Pikmin, I mean, the characters are supposed to be itty bitty, teeny tiny little guys, not human Mario size. So it's shot right there. So all that really leaves is Star Fox. And you've already got Yoshi in it. So we've already established... and Donkey Kong. So it's like we've established there's talking animals in this universe. So I am by no means convinced. But
no, I don't think so.
If they were going to do some kind of crossover for whatever reason, and like I said, I think it's way, 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 way too early to do something like that, Star Fox is the only one that makes a little itty-bitty, teeny-tiny bit of sense.
Do you imagine if, like, they're using the new Super Mario Galaxy movie to be like, oh, yeah, by the way, we're releasing a new Star Fox game for Switch 2. It's like, hold on, you can't just drop that randomly mid, like, movie. No, you can't do that.
Suddenly trailer.
Like, don't get me wrong, I would actually love a Star Fox movie, because I think that would justifiably be a good movie. Because, like, I think there's something to be said about, like, the Star Fox games as a whole kind of being an enveloped experience where it's, like, very a la movie. Because, like, each mission is, like, a scene to the next part of the story. Like, I'm a very big Star Fox Assault defender, because I genuinely like that one. But I really hope that we kind of go and get a new game at some point. I just hope that we have like a better experience with it, because like Assault definitely has its flaws, but like I do like some of the ideas that they were trying to go on with that, where it's like the, you know, just the man mission or the tank missions or the Star Fox R-Wing missions and all that. I think it's just the execution kind of floundered a little bit on it, but you know, we'll see what this is, because I'm gonna guess that it's probably like a character we haven't been announced to, or it's gonna be like Kamek or something stupid like that. I don't.
Or it's just a surprise.
But yeah. And then speaking of crossovers, final segue. We also have 2 different recent crossovers with some of the bigger games as of late, which includes a Marvel Rivals crossover with Fortnite, where they put in some of the Marvel Rivals characters, including Luna Snow and Magic, into Fortnite, and an unexpected one that I only just saw yesterday, Solid Snake will be in Rainbow Six Siege. We talked about crossovers a while ago. These are kind of unexpected crossovers, if I'm being completely honest.
To me, the weirder one is the Solid Snake one, because, I mean, now, let's be fair, Kojima has long been gone from Konami. He is probably like, okay, whatever, I don't care anymore. Well, but you know, it's like I'm saying this, and I'm thinking back, because we also talked a little bit of Metal Gear in the crossover episode, and famously, Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker had Monster Hunter missions. So, you know, I was prepared just now to be like, I just, you know, is it part of the idea with Metal Gear is supposed to be like how bad war is and how it's making them do all these crazy things, and, you know, would Snake really get himself, like, intentionally also put himself in this war situation? And then I'm like, well, but then there's the Monster Hunter stuff. So I guess it's not that absurd in the grand scheme of things, but like, I wonder when we're going to really hit the point with some of these crossovers where we're really going to jump the shark with them, because I think it's one thing if the premise of the game is supposed to be all about crossovers, like your Smash Brothers. I mean, which granted, that was originally more about crossing over within just one studio. I guess technically 2 if you include HAL in it, or 3 with Pokemon. Anyway, point is, that's a crossover. Sonic Racing is a crossover. If it's something where it's like, you know, the name of the game includes the studio name, you can probably bet that's going to be a crossover. Rainbow Six has never explicitly been, to my knowledge, a crossover thing. I remember seeing in, like, similarly in the last couple of years, I can't remember which entry it was, but it's like some of the Call of Duties have had, like, weird crossover characters in it too, and it's like, you
mean like Seth Rogen and Jay and Silent Bob in Warzone? Can't imagine.
Yes. It's like, is that what this needs to be? Does this crossover add anything to the game, or were we just doing it because we think it's going to be helpful to cross promote these 2 properties for some reason? And that's kind of the vibe I get. Like, it's not quite as bad, because, like, there is logic to it with Snake in Snake in Rainbow Six, but also, like, why? Mm-hmm. What is going on right now with these 2 series, other than, you know, the MGS Volume 2 Master Collection was just announced, and, you know, Metal Gear Delta came out not that long ago. Like, why now?
That's a real good question, if I'm being honest. I don't even think I got an answer for that one. I mean, I am kind of like, as a person who genuinely likes this, like, backgrounds of these characters, like Sam Fisher and Solid Snake both being in Siege, that being like the first real, like, I don't know if I could call it canonical, because I don't know the Siege lore that specifically, but like, it's so fascinating that these 2 are finally essentially meeting in a game. Because the closest thing I think I ever saw was like the Screw Attack death battle between the two of them. And that was a fun video, do not get me wrong. But like, I think the thing that in my head that feels a little off with those two being in the same game is like Solid Snake is like in this world where like because of how absurd it is, it still feels real. Because like when Kojima was making like those early games, like the messages behind them didn't make sense at the time, and it was like more forward thinking, I think, to like today's standards than it ever would be. Versus like Splinter Cell was more of like this, it feels like more of a grounded game in terms of its storytelling, because it's like, yeah, this is a spy mission thriller and whatnot, but like there was more like believable stuff to it. Like we're not talking about like these, you know, massive Metal Gear robots like being part of like some big conspiracy. But there was
nanomachines.
Yeah, nanomachines. That's a nice argument, Senator. But it's one of those things where, like, I think that it just feels like two different things, and yet it does feel like it belongs in the same universe at the same time. Like, it's the pineapple on pizza of video games to me, where it's like, normally I would not say these are two things that mix, but there are people that like both, and it works for them. And I think it's kind of in that same bubble, I think.
There is a logic, but it's also still strange. But I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't really have as much commentary on the other crossover either. Like, I don't know. Everything's in Fortnite, so
yeah.
Can I really be surprised?
I think the other thing, too, with that one specifically, with the Fortnite Marvel Rivals collab, I think is more just like, I think that one makes more sense in the sense of that there's going to be a lot of crossover in the two player bases. Like, that's kind of where I figure is like, this makes way more sense just because it's like, you know, there are going to be Marvel Rival players that play Fortnite and vice versa, Fortnite players playing Marvel Rivals. So I think at this point, nothing in the Fortnite situation really screams like, oh yeah, that makes zero sense. Like, it's Fortnite. That's kind of the logic on what it is. It makes more sense than like some of the additions that they put in like Warzone. I mean, we have Fortnite where there's like Sabrina Carpenter, there is a bunch of DC characters, there's like freaking like, I think Mortal Kombat characters or Street Fighter characters or one or the other, or maybe both, I don't know at this point. But like just the fact that like there's so many properties that all are in Fortnite, and honestly the logic just is like, it's Fortnite. That's it. That's all you need to know. And it's like, okay. But I mean, don't get me wrong. I think one is like, it's a fascinating experience for those who probably play Siege. I mean, I would still love to see an actual game where it's like Splinter Cell cross Metal Gear kind of thing, but something that's not Siege. And that's only me saying that because I am not a Siege player by any stretch of the imagination. Like, I own it. I have not played a single minute of it. On the flip side is like with Fortnite, it's like, okay, there's going to be crossovers with that. It makes kind of sense. If we get to a point where we start seeing Fortnite crossing over into Marvel Rivals, then I will maybe raise some eyebrows. But until then, that one doesn't really shock me as much.
You're kind of betraying the point of the game at that point if you're letting other stuff cross over into it, right? I mean, it's explicitly called Marvel Rivals. You're not supposed to let non-Marvel stuff into
Fortnite Rivals.
I'm just looking at this list here from this article from Hotspawn. All Fortnite collabs and upcoming crossovers. Now, this is as of November 28th, so I'm sure this is a little out of date because it's a couple months behind, but it's like NFL, John Wick, Stranger Things, Borderlands, Batman.
There's a Borderlands collab with Fortnite?
Tenet, Marvel, Rocket League, Ghostbusters, The Mandalorian, Kratos, Halo, G.I. Joe, Ant-Man, Lara Croft. Let's see, what else? NBA, Superman, Ferrari, Ariana Grande, Street Fighter.
I forgot.
And I can still I can keep going. Resident Evil, Monopoly, Spider-Man, Bruno Mars, Naomi Osaka. Jeez, it keeps going. Pac-Man, Rocket League again. I thought it was already on here. Star Wars, Hulk, Sam Wilson, Dragon Ball, Transformers, Futurama. And again, I'm skipping a bunch. These are just all the ones that I'm happening to see. So like clearly they haven't hit like what the weirdest one is going to be yet, but God, I can't.
It's just unfathomable at this point. It's like, is it in pop culture? It's probably in Fortnite. I don't know.
Fortnite might be the Funko Pop of video games.
That's probably a safer comparison than what I was about to say. I was going to say something much worse, but yeah, I'd say Fortnite is definitely the Funko of pop culture, like when it comes to gaming, because like Funko has like all these different products that they've made with God knows how many properties, and now Fortnite is essentially all these properties have gotten into it. So like at this point, anything is kind of fair game, I think.
There isn't literally a Funko Pop for every property out there, but there may as well be, just in the same kind of way. Like not every property has a crossover in Fortnite, but there may as well be one. You're pretty close to there being one.
Yeah, and if it's not in now, it'll probably be in later.
A company has to have major self-control to not have it in there, or be very, very extremely tied to their exclusivity. Okay.
Oh, that was a lot.
And we somehow covered it in just about the same amount of time as our previous episode.
To be fair, I think like we had a lot of talk on that 2XKO topic specifically, which, you know, there is a lot to digest with that. But like, there was a lot that happened recently, and I'm still waiting to see what happens with Resident Evil Requiem, which isn't out yet for like another not even 2 weeks.
It's so strange to me on the subject of that. Like, Capcom is so weird. I can't believe there is going to be a Leon Kennedy amiibo figure.
That I didn't know.
You didn't know that?
I didn't see that, no.
From my recollection, let me triple check that this summer there will be amiibo figures for both Grace Ashcroft and Leon Kennedy.
That's insane. Like, I was not putting that on the 2026 bingo card.
They're probably not going to do anything super revolutionary.
No.
But like,
I think amiibo at this point is like, it's a collectible figure. Like, that barely does anything.
But I also just knowing like how Capcom can be, it's so strange to me that they're like the third party studio that wants amiibo figures, because they've got Monster Hunter and now they've got Resident Evil and they've had a few Mega Man and some Street Fighter ones, and someone must be buying them because they're out there. I don't know. Capcom keeps wanting them, so.
Yeah, who knows at this point.
All right. Well, is there anything else that we have to go over today, or are we ready to sign off?
I think that's enough for one day.
Your mind has been blown.
There's been so much in such a short amount of time. But hopefully our next episode will have a more in-depth topic, because I am definitely interested in trying to do another like more investigative piece in terms like something that's got a bit of a deep rabbit hole to dive into. But right now I'm like, I'm just gonna go take a nap after we're done here.
Well, and that's a little bit of a flip from last year, because obviously I did a couple of more research intensive episodes, and actually I have a topic idea, and it's a little bit more of a casual topic, so we've had a little bit of a role reversal right now, but we'll have to see what happens there. In the meantime, though, fine audience members making it through all 85 minutes of this, unless I've cut it down significantly, so I should never say stuff like that. Anyway, if you've enjoyed the episode, please do all your obligatory engagement. Please thumbs up, like, heart, whichever thing your platform shows that shows your approval for the show. Please give that to us. Please share a comment. Perhaps that could be a voice message at speakpipe.com/endless conversation loop. I'd love to have one of those. Subscribe, however, on whichever place you are on, and we will see you in the very next episode whenever we get to recording that.
Bye-bye.
Bye.